we started to we discussed about the architectures that are that are available in ARM devices. Okay, and we talked about thumb technology, is thumb instruction set, then ARM instruction set, then Cortex M3, that is the devices which are belonging to architecture version 7 and above, that they support only thumb 2 architecture, okay, or thumb 2 instruction sets. Yesterday we saw the diagram for that, and we talked about the applications of Cortex M3. So now we shall see about fundamentals. Okay, so what is this? What are the basic you can say information about this Cortex M3 device that we are talking about? So this Cortex M3 is a 32-bit microprocessor. Okay, so it's a 32-bit microprocessor, means so at a time it can handle or it can process 32 bits. Okay, it can process 32 bits simultaneously. Right. So yesterday we saw I showed you the screenshot of the mobile phone, my mobile phone, wherein I had installed an application known as AIDA64. So how many installed this and tried out? Anyone installed this AIDA64? Yes. AIDA64. No one installed? Yeah. So in yesterday I showed you the screenshot of my mobile phone using this application, wherein it showed that the processor that is available in the mobile phone, in my mobile phone, was 64-bit. So now this Cortex M3 we are talking about, it is 32-bit. So it is a lower version compared to whatever we are having in the mobile phone. So this, it has 32-bit data path, 32-bit register bank, and 32-bit memory interfaces. So memory interfaces means buses. Okay, so I talked about the buses in the first introduction class itself. So 32-bit interfaces means the buses are of 32 bits. Okay, since it can handle 32 bits simultaneously, so the bus should also be able to fetch 32 bits of data at a time. So it has 32-bit memory interface. So you'll see this in the diagram below. So this processor has a Harvard architecture. Okay, so Harvard architecture means there is a separate instruction bus and there is a separate data bus. Okay, so in the introduction class itself, I told there is an address bus and there is a data bus. Okay, so address bus is used to you can say access the devices or the memory locations by sending the memory address. So let's say there are 10 devices connected to the processor. There will be 10 different names, which are nothing but 10 different addresses given to each of the device. So in order to access a device, you have to send the address of that device or the name of that device on the address bus, which is also known as instruction bus. So once you send the address on the instruction bus or the address bus, that device gets activated. And once the device is activated and it is ready, you can either send the data to that particular device or receive the data from that device using the data bus. Okay. So here, since it is a Harvard architecture, there are separate instruction buses and there is separate data bus. So there is one more architecture which is known as von Neumann. Okay, or von Neumann architecture. So wherein single bus is shared. It is time multiplexed. Okay, for both data and instruction. So there the bus is not separate. Same bus is used for both address as well as data. See, whenever there is a single bus for both address as well as data, so the operation will be slow. Okay, because there is no separate bus. So I had given the analogy that a bus, you can treat them as a highways. Okay, if there are more lanes in the highways, so more traffic can pass through the highway simultaneously. If there are less lanes, so less traffic can pass. Okay, so if there are more lanes and if there are dedicated lanes, that is the dedicated buses, So the access can be much faster. Okay. So hence here the access will be much faster because it is Harvard architecture with separate instruction bus and data bus. So this allows the data and instruction access to take place at the same time. As a result of this, the performance of the processor increases, as I told, because data access does not affect the instruction pipeline. Fine. So, but in the case of von Neumann architecture, there will be a single bus. Okay. So let's say this bus is 16 bits. Okay. So this bus is used for both data as well as address. Okay. So for some time it will act as an address bus. For the remaining time it will act as a data bus. Let's say out of 2 seconds of time, so 1 second it can act as a for the first 1 second it can act as a address bus, and for the next 1 second it can act as a data bus. So there is a time multiplexing concept here. So, and hence this will consume more time. Okay, simultaneous address and data access is not possible in von Neumann, but Cortex M3 is Harvard architecture. Okay, so it is much faster. So this Harvard architecture feature results in multiple bus interfaces on Cortex M3. Each optimized usage with each optimized usage and the ability to be used simultaneously. Okay, so there will be more than 2 buses that are available in the Cortex M3. Each are having a fixed, you can say, function. So hence, since there are dedicated buses for each function, so the access will be much faster. Okay. Yes. So next, for complex applications that require memory system features, more memory system features, the Cortex M3 also has an optional memory protection unit. Okay. So Cortex M3 also supports an optional memory protection unit. So optional means in some applications this MPU, memory protection unit, may exist, or in some applications it may not exist. Okay, it depends on the application. See, there may be an application wherein there are multiple users in that application. Okay, so whenever there are multiple users in the application, so security becomes important there, because the user file, the files of the first user should not be accessed or let's say erased by the second user of the same system. In this case, a memory protection unit will be useful, wherein it will protect a certain part of the memory from accessing it or from modifying it. Okay, so that is where MPU will come in handy. Okay, so such applications may require MPU, which is optional. If you want, you can implement it or include it, or if you don't want, you need not include it. And it is also possible to use external cache if it is required. Okay, so cache is you can say the fastest memory that is available, right? So usually they will represent a memory in form of a triangle like this. Okay, so at the base of the triangle, usually the secondary memory will come in. Secondary memory. So this is usually the ROMs. Okay, the storage memory. So above it will be the primary memory. This is primary memory. So this will be the RAMs. Okay, or it is also known as the working memory. And at the tip of the triangle, it will be the cache memory. Okay, so it is. So you can see as you go up the triangle. Okay, the size of the memory decreases. Okay, so as you go up the triangle, size of the memory decreases. Okay, and the speed of the memory increases. Speed of the memory increases as you go up the triangle. Okay, so if you come to the bottom of the triangle, secondary memory, so the secondary memory will be usually large in size. Okay, so it will be usually in terms of GBs. Okay, so your hard disk, the computer PC hard disk, okay, laptop hard disk, so usually they will be 500 GB, so or 1000 GBs. which is nothing but 1 TB, okay, so or 2 TB like that. Usually, so these will be having large memory, okay, so the size will be large of the secondary memory, which is RAM, but they are the slowest memories, okay, they are the slowest of memories. These ROMs will be of slowest of memories. So as you move on to the top of the triangle, so next you will encounter the primary memory, which is nothing but the RAM. So as I told, if you move up the triangle, the size decreases, size of the memory decreases, but the speed increases. So hence this RAM will be much faster compared to ROM, but the size of the RAM is usually less. So it will be, let's say, in terms of, again, GBs only, but 8 GB, okay, 8 or 16 GB, 32 GB, that's all, okay. So usually that is what the RAM. So compared to the size of the RAM size is less, but RAM is much faster. And again, if you move on to the tip of the triangle, so you will encounter the cache memory, which is the fastest memory. So compared to RAM and ROM, it is fastest, okay, but the size of the cache is very less. So usually it will be in terms of MBs, not even GBs, it will be in terms of MBs, okay. So that is what is talked about here. So this Cortex M3, you can interface external cache also in some applications. So if you interface external cache, the operation will be much faster because cache is the fastest memory available. And this Cortex M3 supports both little endian and big endian memory systems. We shall talk about this little endian and big endian in the coming sessions. See, these are nothing but two ways of representing data, that's all. Okay, two ways of representing data. We shall see in detail in the coming sessions. The Cortex M3 also includes a number of internal debugging components. So debugging is very important because suppose your application is not functioning properly, so you should be able to detect and locate the bug. Usually it is known as bug or nothing but error. Okay, bug is also known as an error. You have to detect it and locate it so that you can remove this bug or error. So how will you do that? Using the debugging components, because you should be able to see inside the processor core and check the result, okay, check the values so that you'll come to know where the processor is going wrong, okay, and then only you can remove that error or the bug. So this also, Cortex M3 also supports internal debugging component provided by the debugging operations, okay. So such operations are known as breakpoints and watch points. We shall see about breakpoint and watch points later, and we will also discuss that in the lab also. Breakpoint, okay, using the Keel Microvision 4 that we will make use for embedded controller lab. See, now you can see the simplified view of ARM Cortex M3. Okay, so what is there inside the Cortex M3 processor? So yesterday we saw that ARM only designs the Cortex M3 or the ARM devices. It will not manufacture, it will only design. Okay, so what it will design, actually it will design the core. Okay, so this is the processor core, okay, as well as the debug system. So these two will be designed by ARM. Okay, so the R&D section of ARM will design these two, processor core and debug system. So remaining this data bus, the peripherals, okay, the buses, they will be designed by the manufacturers according to their requirement. Okay, so what are there in the Cortex M3 processor? The first thing, if you come from left to right, first you will identify that so there are interrupts, and to manage this interrupt, you can see there is a separate hardware, or you can say dedicated hardware known as NVIC. So this NVIC stands for Nested Vector Interrupt Controller. Okay, Nested Vector Interrupt Controller, NVIC. So this is a dedicated separate hardware which will manage the interrupts to your system. Okay, so interrupts, see any input operation to a particular embedded system or a computer or a laptop is done using an interrupt only. Okay, so suppose you press a key on your keyboard or on your laptop keyboard. Okay, so that is taken as an interrupt, and that is intimated to the system that a key press interrupt has been detected. Okay, So once the interrupt is detected, then it will be serviced according to the requirement. So if it is key press, what should happen? Okay. So suppose if it is a input from a sensor, let's say it's a temperature sensor or ultrasonic sensor. So what should happen based on that interrupt? Okay, so that will be decided. So to handle such interrupts, okay, so to handle such inputs from the external world to the embedded system or to the PC or a laptop, okay, so there is a separate hardware here in the Cortex M3 processor, which is known as NVIC, Nested Vectored Interrupt Controller. Okay, so hence the processing of interrupts will be faster. Why? Because there is a separate dedicated hardware. So whenever there is a dedicated piece of hardware, so for a particular function, so obviously that will only do the job of that particular application, which is interrupts in this case. So hence the operation will be faster. There is no other job for that. It will handle only interrupts. Hence, it will handle them faster. That is the real world scenario also. Whenever there is a dedicated person for a particular job, so that job will be done, you can say, more efficiently and more quickly. Okay. So example, suppose you go to let's say Davangere one or Karnataka one, so wherein you need to pay your so let's say electricity bill. So there is a separate counter there to pay electricity bills only. Okay, so that counter will only handle electricity bills. So you know that whenever you enter and if you visit that counter, your electricity bill payment will be done. Let's say much faster because that is only dedicated for electricity bill payments. Okay, no one else will come and interrupt. Let's say I want to pay property tax. Okay, I want to take kata extract like that. It will not. They will not come to that counter. It is only dedicated for electricity bill payment, and it will be done very fast. So that is the example for a separate dedicated hardware. So then, if you come to the right, there is an instruction fetch unit. Okay, then there is a decoder. Okay, so usually any instruction execution, okay, it will have 3 steps. So one is fetch, okay, decode, and execute. So I don't know how many of you remember. So this one you already studied in 8051 microcontroller. So any execution of instruction will have 3 steps: fetch, decode, execute. So for fetching, again you can see there is a separate unit here, instruction fetch. It will fetch the next instruction that needs to be executed from the memory. Okay. So next decode. So it will decode the instruction that is fetched. So decoding in the sense the instructions will always be in terms of machine code. Okay, that is zeros and ones. So machine code is zeros and ones. So once you fetch the instruction, you have to interpret the instruction. So what is the instruction meaning? So let's say the instruction that you have fetched is 00111100. This is the instruction that you have fetched from the memory. So now the decode unit, what it will do is it will decode this code. Okay, so what does this code mean? So whether this code means addition of 2 numbers or whether it is multiplication of 2 numbers, okay, or whether it is shift of a particular value, that is what decoder unit will do. So it will decode this code. So once this code is decoded, the processor can do that operation. Okay, so that is decode. Then for executing, so you can see there is a ALU. So execution will take place in a ALU, arithmetic and logical unit. So for helping this ALU, so there is a register bank. Okay, so we talked about registers in the introduction class itself. Okay, so what are the use of registers, or what will be the types of registers that will be available? So we talked about that in the introduction class. Okay, and then there will be a memory interface. So memory interface. So why you require an interface? So because you have to interface the instruction bus and the data bus. So you can see separate instruction bus is there, separate data bus is there. Okay, so that the instruction and data access can be done simultaneously. So along with that, so you can see there is a debug system. Okay, so what is the use of debug? As I told you, to see the contents of this processor core, what is happening inside the processor core. So it will act as a microscope. That's all. So this debug system, you can treat it as a microscope. so that using this microscope you can peep into this core of the processor. Okay, you can see individually what is the content of each register, what is the fetch unit value, what is the decoder unit value, what is the this NVIC value, what it is doing. Everything it is visible using this debug system, which is nothing but a microscope inside this the processor core. That's all. Okay. So next comes the memory protection unit. So as I told, it is a you can say an optional unit. So this can be present for some applications, or it may not be present for some applications. Depends on the application. See, as I told, if there are multiple users of a system, so then memory protection unit may be used so that the files of the users are secured properly, so that the files of one user cannot be accessed by the another user. Okay, but if the same system is having only a single user, okay, so that system is having only a single user, then this MPU may not be useful. Okay, so then you can remove it. And then see, there is one more debug interface here. So this debug, it will not give you the inside of the processor core, but it will give the inside of the buses. So what is the value of the buses? What is the present value of the data bus? What is it is carrying? What is the present value of instruction bus? Okay, like that. So then they will be interfaced with the code memory, then memory, system and peripherals, and private peripherals. So peripherals are nothing but IO device. Okay. This is the simplified view of Cortex M3. So out of this view, the processor core and the debug system are only developed by the ARM. The remaining will be developed by the chip manufacturers according to their requirement. So now we'll talk about register bank. So what are the various registers that are available in Cortex M3? Yes, so registers. The Cortex M3 processor, it has registers R0 to R15. So totally 16 registers are there. Okay, and a number of special registers. So there are 16. You can say normal registers, okay, or general purpose registers, and a number of special purpose registers also. So we'll see about special purpose. How many are there? Okay. So now, so out of R0 to R15, so R0 to R12. Okay, so that is 13 registers. That is from R0 to R12. So totally 13 registers are general purpose. Okay, and remaining, so how many are remaining? So out of 16, 13 are general purpose, means 3 are remaining. So those 3 are special purpose. Okay, so next, so out of these 13 general purpose registers, R0 to R7, these are known as low registers. Okay, so out of 13 registers, R0 to R7 are considered as low registers. So just they are grouped as low registers. Okay, so remaining registers R8 to R15, they are considered as high registers. Okay, so we shall see that. So you can see it. The low registers are from R0 to R7. So these are low registers. And next, from R8 to R12. Okay, so R8 to R12, these are high registers. See, why these are classified like this means, see, I told that there are 2 set of instructions. So one is ARM instruction set and one more is thumb instruction set. Okay, so where ARM instructions are 32-bit instructions and thumb instructions are 16-bit instructions. So now this classification it will be based on how the register are accessed. Okay, see, these low registers can be accessed by both ARM instruction set as well as thumb instruction set. Okay, the low registers can be accessed by both ARM instruction set and thumb instruction set. Okay, but these high registers, which is R8 to R12, these can only be accessed by ARM instruction sets. That is 32-bit instructions. That is how the classification is done. Okay, very simple classification. Fine. And all these registers R0 to R15. Okay, so whatever you are seeing, R0 to R15, all these registers are of 32 bits. Okay, they are 32 bits. So if you remember 8051, so there the general purpose registers R0 to R7, they were of 8 bits. That's all. Okay, 8-bit registers each. But here you can see it is 4 times more. It is 32 bits. Each register can hold or can store 32 bits of data. Okay. So next, from R0 to R12, they are general purpose. R13, so you can see R13, there are 2 registers of R13. So these are nothing but stack pointers. So there will be 2 stack pointers in Cortex M3 processor. Okay. So why we shall see that later. But for timing, remember there are 2 stack pointers. So usually there is only 1 stack pointer. So in 8051 microcontroller also there is only 1 stack pointer. But here there are 2. So one stack pointer is called main stack pointer, which is also known as MSP. Okay. And one more stack pointer is known as process stack pointer, which is also known as PSP. Okay. So next we will come to R14, which is nothing but the link register. Okay, we shall see in detail what these registers will do and what are the uses. Okay. And next R15, which is again 32-bit register, is a program counter. Program counter, so as I told, there is a program counter for every processor or controller. So this program counter will always hold the address of the next instruction that should be executed by the processor. That is the use of PC, program counter. Okay. So next you can see after R15, that is 16 registers, there are some special purpose registers also. Okay. So these are special purpose registers. So what are these? First is PSR. PSR stands for Program Status Register. Okay. The Program Status Register, it will hold the flags. Okay. It will hold the flags. So flags means carry flag, okay, auxiliary carry, so overflow, zero flag, negative flag, like that. So that is nothing but the PSR. Again, it's a 32-bit register. So next, the next 3 registers you can see prime mask, fault mask, and base prime. These 3 correspond to interrupt mask registers. Okay, so they will deal with interrupt masking. Okay, so there is an option of masking the interrupts. See, let's say there are 10 interrupts. Out of 10 interrupts or 10 input signals to your embedded system, suppose you want to temporarily block 8 of the 10 input to your embedded system because of some reason. Okay, you don't want any interruption in your activity. That is why what you will do is out of 10 inputs or interrupts to your system, you want to block 8 out of 10. So how to block them? So block in the sense, even though those inputs will come, you will ignore those inputs. Okay, you will ignore those inputs. So see, it is just like suppose whenever the classes is going on, suppose the teacher will close the door of the classroom. Okay, once the classroom door is closed, so he is not allowing any interruption from the outside to his class. Okay, whenever he is handling the class, no interrupt should come. That is why he will close the door. So in the sense, so he is masking the interrupts. So he is ignoring the interrupts. Anyone wants to get in to the classroom also, it will not be allowed because that interrupt is masked, that input is masked, or that input is ignored. Okay, it will not be considered for processing. So the class teacher will not entertain the interrupts. That is what you mean by masking. Okay, so to do that, there are 3 dedicated interrupt masking registers: prime mask, fault mask, and base prime. And the last special purpose register is control register. Okay. So control register, so it will control some operations like selecting the stack pointer. So out of 2 stack pointers, MSB and PSP, which one will be used? So that depends on control register. Control register will do that job. Okay, we shall see that. So now we shall come to this general purpose registers R0 to R7. So as I told, they are called as low registers. Okay, so all these are 32 bits. So they can be accessed by here 16-bit thumb instructions as well as 32-bit thumb 2 instructions, both. Okay, so the general purpose registers R0 to R7 can be accessed by 16-bit instructions as well as 32-bit instructions. Okay, so they are all 32 bits and the reset value is unpredictable. What do you mean by this? Is so whenever the processor has just exited the reset, or whenever you reset the processor, so whatever the values that are there in these registers R0 to R7, you cannot predict them. That is, you cannot say that the values of these registers will be 0. No, the values of these registers can be anything, any junk value. That is what you mean by unpredictable. See, there are certain processors or controllers wherein if you reset the processor or controller, all the registers in that processor or controller will be reset to the value 0. So there are such arrangements also, but here there is no arrangement like that. Okay, so the values of these registers after reset will be unpredictable. So next we'll come to this general purpose registers R8 to R12. Okay, so the registers R8 through R12, again they are general purpose only, but they are known as high registers. Okay, so they are accessible by only thumb 2 instructions. So thumb 2 instructions means 32-bit instructions. They are only accessed by or accessible by thumb 2 instructions, but not by 16-bit instructions. Okay, they cannot be accessed by 16-bit instructions. Only 32-bit instructions can be accessed. Can access this high registers. Okay. Again, they are all 32 bits and the reset value is unpredictable. So now we'll come to the stack pointer, which is also known as R13. So register R13 in Cortex M3 represents stack pointer, SP. Okay. So what is the use of stack? So again, you already know stack is usually used to store the intermediate results. Okay. Stack is used to store the intermediate results. Okay. So in case there are more values that you want to retrieve later, so you will store them in the stack memory. So out of the total memory of the processor or controller, some part of the memory of the controller or processor will be dedicated as stack memory. It will be dedicated as stack memory. So it is a temporary storage memory. Okay, so remember this. See, yeah, so we'll talk about that. So in Cortex M3 processor, there are two stack pointers. Okay, so two SPs. So we saw that one is MSP and one more is PSP. Main stack pointer, process stack pointer. So this duality allows two separate stack memories to be set up. Okay, so there will be two separate stack memories that will be set up. One for main stack and one more is for process stack. So what is the use of this is, see, this will allow, let's say the safety, so that the stack corruption can be avoided. Okay, so this will be used so that stack corruption may be avoided. Stack corruption. Okay, that is why two stacks will be used and two stack pointers will be used. So usually in Cortex M3 there will be two stack memories, and in order to point to those two stack memories, there will be two stack pointers, MSP, PSP. Usually MSP main stack will be used by the you can say the handler mode or the handler. Okay, so main stack will be used by the handler. Process stack will be used by the thread or the process. Okay. See, this handler is this handler will be activated whenever an interrupt comes. Okay. So to process an interrupt, handler will be activated or handler mode will be activated. So in this handler mode, it will use the main stack pointer. And this PSP, this is used in the process or thread mode, wherein normal programs are running. Okay, so whenever normal programs or the third-party programs or the user programs are running, so those programs will use process stack. But whenever it is handler mode, it will use main stack. So see, at this process stack or the thread mode, as I told, so user programs will be running. So user programs can be third-party programs. Third-party means, so you will download some application from internet and you will install it. Okay, so that program that you have downloaded from the internet and you installed, that can be a virus. Okay, so that can be a virus. So, but you don't know until you run it, you will not come to it. So once you run it, and let's say it will start to misbehave, since it is a virus, what it might do is it might gain the access to the stack memory and it might delete all the stack. So wherein the temporary data is stored. Okay. So hence what it will do, it will result in loss of data. Because it is a third party application, you are not sure about the third party application. Once you install it, it may turn into a virus and it may delete all the stack. But what will happen here is, since you are using separate stacks, this third party application, it has only access to the process stack. And this process stack will have the data related to the user programs, that's all. Okay, so they are related only to user programs. So if you, even though it will get access to this stack, PSP, process stack, it can delete only the user program data, but the system program, okay, so the whatever the OS is running in on the embedded system, whatever the OS files and whatever the main files, they are available in the, or the data that will be available in the stack, main stack. Okay, so even though this is a virus, it can only corrupt the process stack, but it will not gain access to the main stack. So hence the OS which uses the main stack, the data of the OS will not be corrupted. So hence this OS can still recover. Okay, so that is where two stacks will be used. So when using register R13, so you can only access the current stack pointer. So either the current stack pointer can be PSP or MSP. It depends on the control register. I told it will depend on the control register. So the other one is inaccessible. Okay, unless you use special instructions to move the special register from general purpose register. Okay, so in order to access this R13, okay, you should use special access instructions. Which are those special access instructions? MSR and MRS. Okay, so we shall talk about these two instructions later, but for time being, remember, in order to access special registers, you have to use special register access instructions, okay, which are MSR and MRS. So you cannot you cannot use normal instructions to access special purpose registers. You should use special purpose access register instructions. Okay, special instructions like this. Yeah, so main stack MSP and process stack PSP. See here, main stack is the default stack pointer. Okay, and it is used by the operating system and the kernel and the exception handlers. Okay, so main stack is always used by the OS and the you can say system applications which are run by the OS. Okay, so but the process stack, if it is set up, so it will be used by the user applications or the third-party applications which are downloaded and installed. They are not the operating system processes or files. Okay, yeah, so you can see a simple diagram here how the stack operations will be done. Okay, so stack to access stack memory, so you should use the instructions push and pop. So you have already studied this in 8051. Same thing we'll also discuss here. So stack memory usage model. So it is a simple part of this memory system, and a pointer register inside the processor is used to make this work. Okay, so stack is always first in, last out. Okay, so it is first in, last out. So the common use of stack is to save register contents before some data processing and then restore them after the data processing task is done. Okay, so that is what the use of stack. So if you push the data, so it will be stored into the stack memory. And you can see here stack memory is pointing to the stack pointer is always pointing to the top of the stack. Always remember this. The SP stack pointer, it will always point to the top of the stack. That is, it will always point to the recently stored data or recently pushed data. So that is what the stack pointer will always point to. So what will happen in push operation? See, as soon as you use push operation to use the stack in Cortex M3, what will happen is first R13. So R13 is nothing but the stack pointer. It will be decremented by 4, and then the memory of R13 will be stored, or it will be stored with the contents of R0. Okay, so we shall see this using a diagram here. So I'll write down a memory like this, because this is very important. This can be asked in the examination also. So after the push operation, what are the contents of the registers? That is what the question will be asked for 2 to 3 marks. So if you go through the previous year papers, you will come to know that. Like this. So this is the memory. So this memory system, so there will be each locations. Okay, so I told this that every location will be given an address. So let's say this location address is 0x0000. Okay, so just for demonstration, I am using this. So the next address will be 0x0001. Next location address. The next location address is 0x0010. Okay, so next location address is 0x0011. Okay, so next location 0x0100. Next location is 0101. Next location is 0x0110. Okay, so next location can be 0x0111. And next location can be 0x1000. Okay, so let's say the stack pointer SP is currently pointing to this location. Okay, currently it is pointing to this location. That means, so as I told, SP will always point to the top of the stack, or the recently stored data. It will always point to recently stored data. Okay, so let's say the recently stored data is 708090 and then 10. So this is the recently stored data. Okay, so always remember, since Cortex M3 is a 32-bit processor, so one push will store 32 bits of data into the stack memory. Okay, remember this. One push will store 32 bits of data into the stack memory, and pop will retrieve 32 bits of data from stack memory. 32 bits are retrieved. Okay. So now let's say the instruction. So according to the example here, it is push R0. Correct. So it is push R0. So what will happen? So let's say we'll assume that the contents of R0. The contents of R0 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Since R0 is 32-bit register, it will have 32 bits of data. So see, whatever I have written, it is in hexadecimal. Okay. So total 32 bits. So 7, 8. These two are 8 bits. 5, 6 means 8 bits. 3, 4 means 8 bits, and 1, 2 is 8 bits. So totally 32 bits. So hope you know how to represent data in hexadecimal. Okay, so in hexadecimal, you represent each data using 4 bits. Okay, so totally here two data are there, 7, 8. So totally 8 bits. So this is 8 bits. Okay, this is 8 bits, 5, 6. 3, 4 is 8 bits and 1, 2 is 8 bits. So totally it is 32 bits. 8 plus 8, 16, 24, 32. Okay, so this is the data present in R0. If you are doing push R0 means you are trying to save this data, which is 32 bit, onto stack. So what will happen now? So if you directly store this data of R0 without decrementing the stack pointer, what will happen? So the previously stored contents will be overwritten. Why? Because as I told, SP will always point to the recently stored data onto the stack. So the recently stored data is this. Okay, so if you directly store the data onto this stack, so then the previous contents will be overwritten. But that should not happen. So there should not be any loss of data. Okay, so that is why whenever there is a push operation, first this stack pointer, which is R13, will be reduced by 4. Okay, will be reduced by 4, or it will be decremented by 4. So then what will happen? Let's see. So this is the stack pointer, which is R13. If you decrement it by 4, what will happen? So decrement it by 4 means, so minus 1 means it will point here, minus 2 means it will point here, minus 3 means it will point to this location, and minus 4 means, so the new SP will point here. Decrement by 4, now the new data will be stored. Okay, so how will be the new data stored? So let's say first the MSB will be stored, or the main the MSB part of the 8 bits, the first 8 bits of the data. Okay, so the first 8 bits of the data is 12. So 12 will be stored here. So in the next location, 34 will be stored, the next 8 bits. In the next location, 56 will be stored, and in the next location, the last 8 bits, which is 78, will be stored. See, remember I told all the commercially available memories, each location can store only 8 bits. Okay, not more than that. So hence, to store 32 bits of data, which is R0, in order to store 32 bits of data, you require 4 memory locations. 4 memory locations. So that is what I have done. So I have used memory location 0x100, 0x0011, 0x0010, 0x0001. So I have used these 4 locations. Okay, so getting with this, so this is the push operation. So for in push operation, what will happen? First, R13 is decremented by 4, and then memory of R13 will be stored with the contents of register R0. Memory of R13 means wherever R13 is pointing, from that location, 4 locations will be used to store the contents of R0, because R0 is of 32 bits. In order to store 32 bits, 4 locations are required, and those 4 locations will start from wherever R13 is pointing. Okay, after the decrement operation. So in this example, after the decrement operation, R13 is pointing to 0x0100. So from this location, 4 locations will be used to store the data of R0. Okay, and one more thing you have to remember. So here in Cortex M3, it is full decrementing stack operation. Okay, full decrementing arrangement of stack. So that means, see, you start with a higher address and you move on to a lower address. So that is what will happen in ARM Cortex M3, full decrementing arrangement of stack. Okay, so that is you start from a higher address and you move on to a lower address. Okay, so hope you got the concept. So this is how stack memory operation is done. Okay, suppose this is push. So what will happen in pop? So let's say it is pop R0. Okay, so now what will happen is, so pop means you have to retrieve the data. Okay, so how will you retrieve the data? Again, you have to use the stack pointer, which is the R13. Okay, or stack pointer. So we already know that stack pointer will always point to the recently stored data or recently pushed data into the stack. So that means the stack pointer is always already pointing to a data. Okay. So then what will happen? So you have to retrieve this data. So hence what will happen? First thing that will happen is, so since it is pop R0, so R0 will get the contents of, so what R0 will get the contents of? So it will get the contents of the memory, okay, whose location is pointed by R13 or the SP. Okay, so R0 will get the contents of the memory locations whose location is pointed by R13. So again, POP is also a 32-bit operation. Whenever it is POP, again 32 bits of data will be received or retrieved into the destination. Okay. So again, so what will happen now? So since already SP or stack pointer is already pointing to the recently pushed data onto the stack. So first you have to retrieve the data. So then what will happen? So this POP will retrieve these 4 locations. Okay, why? Because already new SP is here, which is pointing to the top of the stack. Okay, so now you have to retrieve this data. So, or you have to retrieve the recently pushed data. So what will be retrieved now? So R0 will get the contents. So what are the contents of the R0 after POP will be? First it will retrieve this location because R13 is pointing to, see here, what was the previous location of R13? It was 0x0100, this location. So first it will retrieve that. Okay. Next it will retrieve the next location contents. Okay, the next location is 0011. Contents of that location is 34. Okay, so it will next retrieve the next location contents. So the next location is 0010. So the contents is 56. And it will go to the next location. The contents is 78. So this value will be stored to R0. Okay. Again, see, since it is 32-bit data retrieval, so R13 will point to the starting address. That's all. So the starting address is 0100. Starting from 0100, 4 locations will be accessed because it is 32-bit retrieval. So starting from 0100, 4 locations means 0100, 0011, 01, sorry, 0011, sorry, 10, and 0001. So these 4 locations will be accessed. So once you access this location, okay, you have to rearrange the stack pointer. So how will you rearrange the stack pointer? It has to point to the next data because this data is already retrieved now. Okay, these 32-bit data is already retrieved. So SP should point to the next data whenever it is next POP operation. Then what will happen is after storing the data, next operation that will be done is, so the reverse of the push operation, which is R13 will be incremented by 4. Okay, previously in POP it was decrement by 4. Okay, it was decrement by 4, but now it is increment by 4. Okay, so in POP what will happen? First the contents of the memory location pointed by SP will be retrieved, and then the stack pointer will be adjusted by 4. That is, it will be incremented by 4. Okay, so then once if it is incremented, then what will happen is, so now SP will go and point to this location. So this will be the new SP. Okay, so now if you do one more POP operation, let's say POP R1, so what will happen? So R1 will be first copied with the contents of the memory location pointed by R13. That means, so where is R13 pointing now? R13 is pointing to this location, 1000. So starting from this location, since it is 32-bit POP, 4 memory locations will be accessed. Okay, so which are the 4 locations? 1000. So what is the content of that location? 70. So next location that will be accessed is 0111. So the content of that location is 80. The next location that will be accessed is 0110. The content of that is 90. And the next location that will be accessed is 0101. Okay, the content of that is 10. So this will be stored in R1, and after that again R13 will be incremented by 4. Okay, so this is what push and POP operation will do. Okay, so same thing is explained here. Fine. And so in Cortex M3, there is one more option. You can push multiple registers at a time. Okay, so this is, let's say, let's say you do push R0. So here you are only pushing one register or storing one register in this operation. But you can see in this example here, so in Cortex M3 it supports multiple store using push. You are actually storing here using a single push instruction. You are storing R0 to R7. That is 8 registers you are storing. Along with these 8 registers, you are also storing R12 and R14. So totally 10 registers contents will be stored into the stack using a single push operation or single push instruction. Okay, so you need not write 10 push instructions separately. Okay, so after push R0, push R1, push R2, push R3, no need to write like that. Okay, so if you remember 8051, there one push instruction can be used to store only one register content, but here that is not the case. So using one push instruction, you can store multiple registers at a time. Okay, so instead of 10 instructions, only one instruction is sufficient. Same case will be applicable for pop also. Using only one pop instruction, you can pop multiple registers. That is also available. Okay. Yeah. So instead of R13, you can use SP also. Instead of that, you can use SP. Okay. So that is the name I can be interchanged. So either you can access it as R13 or you can access it as SP. Both will mean the same. Okay. It means the same thing. Okay. R13 or SP. So in order to access the stack pointer, as I told you, you have to use special access instructions, MRS and MSR. We shall see what is the use of MRS and MSR later, but for time being, remember, to access special registers, you have to use special access instructions, special register access instructions, which are MRS and MSR. See why there are two? Because one is read from the special register, so this is MRS, and MSR is write to the special register, like that. So two instructions are there. So we shall see that in the coming sessions.